I'll have to take off my Can you make me dinner?
And we're live, guys.
Good morning. This is Grace, and thank you for coming to the live stream today. It's been a little while, but I'm going to read to you from Charlotte's Web again today. Excitement. We've been reading, we're like about halfway through the book, and now we're at chapter 8, if I know my Roman numerals. Chapter 8 is called Good Progress. So far into the night, while the other creatures slept, Charlotte worked on her web. First, she ripped out a few of the orb lines near the center. She left the radial lines alone as they were needed for support. So the orb lines are the ones that are going around that she took out, and the ones that form the base there, those need to stay or else the whole thing will collapse. As she worked, her 8 legs were a great help to her. Don't you sometimes wish you had like 8 arms to get everything done? Yeah. So were her teeth. Eek. She loved to weave, and she was an expert at it. When she was finished ripping things out, her web looked something like what I showed you with a big hole in the middle. But since it has those other lines, it can still stand up. It says a spider can produce several kinds of thread. She uses a dry, tough thread for foundation lines, and she uses a sticky thread for the snare lines, the ones that catch and hold the insects. Charlotte decided to use her dry thread for writing the new message. If I write the word terrific with sticky thread, she thought, every bug that comes along will get in it and spoil the effect. Now let's see, the first letter is T. Charlotte climbed to a point at the top of the left-hand side of the web. Swinging her spinnerets into position, she attached her thread and then dropped down. As she dropped down, her spinning tubes went into action, and she let out thread, just like Spider-Man, right? At the bottom, she attached the thread. This formed the upright part of the letter T. Charlotte was not satisfied, however. She climbed up and made another attachment right next to the first. Then she carried the line down that she had a double line to make instead of a single line. It will show up better if I make the whole thing with double lines. Yeah, but more work, right? She climbed back up and moved over about an inch to the left, touched her spinnerets to the web, and then carried a line across to the right, forming the top of the T. She repeated this, making it double. Her 8 legs were very busy helping. Now for the E. Charlotte got so interested in her work, she began to talk to herself, as though to cheer herself on. If you had been sitting quietly near the barn cellar that evening, you would have heard something like this. Now for the R. Up we go. Attach, descend, pay out line. Whoa, attach, good. Up you go. Repeat. Attach, descend, pay out line. Whoa, girl. Steady now. Attach, climb, attach. Over to the right. Pay out line. Attach. Now right and down and swing that loop around and around.
Oh, boy.
Now into the left. Attach, climb, repeat. Okay. Easy. Keep those lines together. Now then, whoa, out and down for the leg of the R. Pay out line. Whoa. Attach, ascend, repeat. Good girl. Well, she was having about as good a conversation with herself as I do with myself sometimes. No. And so, talking to herself, the spider worked at her difficult task. When it was completed, she felt hungry. Oh, well, that's too bad because she didn't use any sticky web. She ate a small bug that she had been saving. Then she slept. The next morning, Wilbur arose and stood beneath the web. He breathed the morning air into his lungs, just like you guys do with your little exercises in the morning, right?
Yeah.
Drops of dew catching the sun made the web stand out clearly. When Lurvy arrived with breakfast, there was a handsome pig, and over him, woven neatly in block letters, was the word terrific. Ta-da, terrific.
Wow.
It says terrific in the web. Wow. Another miracle. Yeah, Lurvy rushed and called Mr. Zuckerman. Mr. Zuckerman rushed and called Mrs. Zuckerman. Mrs. Zuckerman ran to the phone and called the Arables. The Arables climbed into their truck and hurried over. Everybody stood at a pink pen and stared at the web and read the word over and over. while Wilbur, who felt really terrific by now, stood quietly, swelling out his chest and swinging his snout from side to side. Terrific, breathed Zuckerman in joyful admiration. Edith, you better phone the reporter on the Weekly Chronicle and tell him what has happened. He will want to know about this. He may want to bring out a photographer. There isn't a pig in the whole state that is as terrific as our pig. News spread. People who had journeyed to see Wilbur when he was some pig, remember last time she wrote some pig in the web, came back again to see now that he was terrific. That afternoon, when Mr. Zuckerman went to milk the cows and clean out the tie-ups, he was still thinking about what a wondrous pig he owned. Lurvy, he called, there is to be no more cow manure thrown in that pig pen. I have a terrific pig. I want that pig to have clean, bright straw every day for his bedding. Understand? Oh, yes, sir, said Lurvy. Furthermore, said Mr. Zuckerman, I want you to start building a crate for Wilbur. I have decided to take the pig to the county fair on September 6th. Make the crate large enough and paint it green with gold letters. Oh, what will the letters say? Asked Lurvy. They should say Zuckerman's famous pig. Lurvy picked up a pitchfork and walked away to get some clean straw. Having such an important pig was going to mean plenty of extra work. He could see that. Below the apple orchard, at the end of a path, was a little dump where Mr. Zuckerman threw all sorts of trash and stuff nobody wanted anymore. Here, in a small clearing by young alders and wild raspberry bushes, there's an astonishing pile of old bottles and empty tin cans and dirty rags and bits of metal and broken bottles and broken hinges and broken springs and dead batteries and last month's magazines and old discarded dish mops and tattered overalls, all rusty and discarded, spikes and leaky pails and forgotten stoppers and useless kinds of junk of all kinds, including a wrong-size crank for a broken ice cream freezer. Templeton the Rat, he knew about the dump and he liked it. There was a good hiding place in there, excellent cover for a rat, and there was usually a tin can with food still clinging to the inside. Templeton was down there now, rummaging around. When he returned to the barn, he carried in his mouth an advertisement he had torn from a crumpled magazine. How's this? He asked, showing the ad to Charlotte. It says, crunchy, crunchy. That would be a good word to write in your rub. That's just the wrong idea, replied Charlotte. Couldn't be worse. We don't want Zuckerman to think that Wilbur is crunchy. He might start thinking about crisp, crunchy bacon. No. That would put ideas in his head. We must advertise Wilbur's noble qualities, not his tastiness. Go get another word, please, Templeton. The rat looked disgusted, but he sneaked away to the dump and was back in a while with a strip of cotton cloth. How's this? He asked. It's a label off of an old shirt. Charlotte examined the label and it said, pre-shrunk. I'm sorry, Templeton, she said, but pre-shrunk is out of the question. We want Zuckerman to think Wilbur is nicely filled out, not all shrunk up. I'm going to have to ask you to try again. What do you think I am, a messenger boy? The rat grumbled. I am not going to spend any more time chasing down to the dump after advertising material. Oh, just one more, please, said Charlotte. I'll tell you what I'll do, said Templeton. I know where there's a package of soap flakes in the woodshed. It has writing on it. I'll bring you a piece of the package. He climbed the rope that hung on the wall and disappeared through a hole in the ceiling. When he came back, he had a strip of blue and white cardboard in his teeth. There, he said. How is that? Charlotte read the words, with radiant new action. What does that mean? Asked Charlotte, who had never used any soap flakes in her life. How should I know, said Templeton. You asked for words and I brought them. I suppose suppose the next thing you'll want me to fetch is a dictionary. That would be heavy. Together they studied the soap ad with new radiant action, repeated Charlie. Wilbur, she called. Wilbur, who was asleep in the straw, jumped up. Run around, commanded Charlotte. I want to see you in action, to see if you are radiant. Okay, Wilbur raced to the end of the yard. Now back again, faster, said Charlotte. Wilbur galloped back. His skin shone. His tail had a fine, tight curl in it. Jump into the air, cried Charlotte. Wilbur jumped as high as he could. Keep your knees straight and touch the ground with your ears, called Charlotte. Wilbur obeyed. Do a backflip with a half twist in it, cried Charlotte. Wilbur went over backwards, writhing and twisting as he went. Okay, Wilbur, said Charlotte, you can go back to sleep. Okay, Templeton, the soap ad will do, I guess. I'm not sure Wilbur's action is exactly radiant, but it's interesting. Actually, said Wilbur, I do feel radiant. You do, said Charlotte, looking at him. Well, you're a good little pig, and radiant you shall be. I'm in this thing pretty deep now. I might as well go to the limit. Tired from his romp, Wilbur lay down in the clean straw. He closed his eyes. The straw seemed scratchy, not as comfortable as cow manure, which he was always delighted to lie in. So he pushed the straw to one side and stretched out in the manure. Wilbur sighed. It has been a busy day. His first day of being terrific. Dozens of people had visited his yard during the afternoon, and he had to stand and pose looking as terrific as he could. Now he was tired. Fern had arrived and seated herself quietly on her stool in the corner. Tell me a story, Charlotte, Wilbur said as he lay waiting for the sleep to come. Tell me a story. So Charlotte thought, although she too was tired, she did what Wilbur wanted. Once upon a time, she began, I had a beautiful cousin who managed to build her web across a small stream. One day, a tiny fish leaped into the air and got tangled in the web. My cousin was very much surprised, of course. The fish was thrashing wildly. There's a fish in the little spider web, though. That doesn't look too smart. I bet they're both trying to figure out what to do. My cousin hardly dared tackle it, but she did. She swooped down and threw great masses of wrapping material around the fish and fought bravely to capture it. Did she succeed? Wilbur asked. It was a never-to-be-forgotten battle, said Charlotte. There was the fish, caught only by one fin, and its tail wildly thrashing in the shining sun. There was the web sagging dangerously under the weight of the fish. How much did the fish weigh? Asked Wilbur. I don't know, said Charlotte. There was my cousin, slipping in, dodging out, beaten mercilessly over the head by the fish that was wildly thrashing, dancing in, dancing out, throwing her threads and fighting hard. First, she threw a left around the tail. The fish lashed back. Then a left to the tail and a right to the midsection. The fish lashed back. Then she dodged to one side and threw a right and another right to the fin. And then a hard left to the head while the web swayed and stretched. Well, then what happened? Asked Wilbur. Nothing, said Charlotte. The fish lost the fight. My cousin wrapped it up so tight it couldn't budge. Then what happened? Asked Wilbur. Nothing. My cousin kept the fish for a while, and then when she got good and ready, she ate it. That's a big meal. Tell me another story, said Wilbur. So Charlotte told him about another cousin of hers who was an aeronaut. What is an aeronaut? Asked Wilbur. A balloonist, said Charlotte. My cousin used to stand on her head and let out enough thread to form, 2 pages, to form a balloon. Then she'd let go and be lifted in the air and carried upward on the warm wind. Is that true? Asked Wilbur. Or are you just making it up? It's true, replied Charlotte. I have some very remarkable cousins. And now, Wilbur, it's time you went to sleep. Sing something, begged Wilbur, closing his eyes. So Charlotte sang a lullaby while crickets chirped in the grass and the barn grew dark. This was the song she sang. Sleep, sleep, my love, my only, deep, deep in the dung and the dark. Be not afraid and be not lonely. This is the hour when frogs and thrushes praise the world from the woods and the rushes. Rest from care, my one and only, deep in the dung and the dark. But Wilbur was already asleep. When the song ended, Fern got up and went home. So the next chapter is chapter 9, Dr. Dorian, whoever that is. The next day was Saturday. Fern stood at the kitchen sink drying the breakfast dishes as her mother washed them. Mrs. Arable worked silently. She hoped Fern would go out and play with other children instead of heading for the Zuckerman's barn to sit and watch animals. Charlotte is the best storyteller I've ever heard, said Fern, poking her dish towel into a cereal bowl. Fern, said her mother sternly, you must not invent things. You know spiders don't tell stories. Spiders can't talk. Charlotte can, replied Fern. She doesn't talk very loud, but she talks. Oh, really, what kind of story did she tell? Asked Mrs. Arable. Well, began Fern, she told us about a cousin of hers who caught a fish in her web. Don't you think that's fascinating? I think that sounds kind of scary. Fern, dear, how would a fish get in a spider's web? Said Mrs. Arable. You know it couldn't happen. You're making this up. Oh, it happened all right, replied Fern. Charlotte never fibs. This cousin of hers built a web across a stream. One day she was hanging around on the web and a tiny fish leaped into the air and got tangled in the web. The fish was caught by one fin. Mother, its tail was wildly thrashing and shining in the sun. Can't you just see the web sagging dangerously under the weight of the fish? Charlotte's cousin kept slipping in, dodging out, and she was beaten mercilessly over the head by the wildly thrashing fish. Dancing in, dancing out, throwing, Fern, snapped her mother. Stop it. Stop inventing these wild tales. I'm not inventing, said Fern. I'm just telling you the facts. Well, what finally happened, asked her mother, whose curiosity did begin to get the better of her. Charlotte's cousin won. She wrapped the fish up, and then she ate him when she got good and ready. Spiders have to eat, the same as the rest of us. Well, yes, I suppose they do, said Mrs. Arable. Charlotte has another cousin who is a balloonist. She stands on her head and lets out a lot of line and is carried aloft in the wind. Mother, wouldn't you simply love to do that? Yes, I would, come to think of it, replied Mrs. Arable. But Fern, darling, I wish you would play outdoors today instead of going over to Uncle Homer's barn. Find some of your playmates. Do something nice outdoors. You're spending too much time in that barn. It isn't good for you to be alone so much. Alone, said Fern. Alone? My best friends are in the barn cellar. It's a very sociable place, not at all lonely. Fern disappeared after a while, walking down the road toward Zuckerman's. Her mother dusted the sitting room. As she worked, she kept thinking about Fern. It didn't seem natural for a little girl to be so interested in animals. Finally, Mrs. Arable made up her mind she would pay a call on old Dr. Dorian and ask his advice. She got in the car and drove to his office in the village. Oh, Dr. Dorian had a thick beard. He was glad to see Mrs. Arable and gave her a comfortable chair. It's about Fern, she explained. Fern spends entirely too much time in the Zuckerman's barn. It doesn't seem normal. She sits near the pig pen and watches animals hour after hour. She just sits and listens. Dr. Dorian leaned back and closed his eyes. How enchanting, he said. It must be real nice and quiet down there. Homer has some sheep, hasn't he? Yes, said Mrs. Arable, but it all started with that pig we let Fern raise on a bottle. Oh, here we have a picture of the doctor and his beard, and Mrs. Arable, the mom, talking to him. She calls him Wilbur. Homer bought the pig, and ever since it left our place, Fern has been going to her uncle's to be near it. I've been hearing things about that pig, Dr. Dorian said. They say he's quite a pig. Have you heard about the words that appeared in the spider's web? Asked Mrs. Arable nervously. Yes, replied the doctor. Well, do you understand it? Asked Mrs. Arable. Understand what? Do you understand how there could be any writing in a spider's web? Oh, no, said Dr. Dorian, I don't understand it. But for that matter, I don't understand how a spider learned to spin a web in the first place. When the words appeared, everyone said they were a miracle. But nobody pointed out that the web itself is a miracle. Oh, what's miraculous about a spider's web? Said Mrs. Arable. I don't see why you say a web is a miracle. It's just a web. Oh, did you ever try to spin one? Asked Dr. Dorian. Mrs. Arable shifted uneasily in her chair. No, but I can crochet a doily and I can knit a sock. Sure, said the doctor, but somebody taught you, didn't they? My mother taught me. Well, who taught the spider? A young spider knows how to spin a web without any instructions from anybody. Do you regard that as a miracle? Well, I suppose so, said Mrs. Arable. I never looked at it that way before. Still, I don't understand how those words got into the web. I don't understand it, and I don't like what I can't understand. Well, none of us do, said Dr. Dorian. I'm a doctor. Doctors are supposed to understand everything, but I don't understand everything, and I don't intend to let it worry me either. Mrs. Arable fidgeted. Ferd says the animals talk to each other. Dr. Dorian, do you believe animals talk?
Oh, wow.
Well, I never heard one say anything, he replied, but that proves nothing. It is quite possible that an animal has spoken civilly to me, and that I didn't catch the remark because I wasn't paying attention. Children pay better attention than grown-ups. If Fern says that the animals in Zuckerman's barn talk, I'm quite ready to believe her. Perhaps if people talk less, animals would talk more. People are incessant talkers, you know. I can give you my word on that. Well, I feel better about Fern, said Mrs. Arable. You don't think I need to be worried about her? Does she look well? Asked the doctor. Oh, yes. Appetite good? Oh, yes, she's always hungry. Does she sleep well at night? Oh, yes. Well, then don't worry, the doctor said. Do you think she'll ever stop thinking about something besides pigs and sheep and geese and spiders? Well, how old is Fern? She's 8. Well, said Dr. Dorian, I think she'll always love animals, but I doubt that she'll spend her entire life in Homer Zuckerman's barn cellar. How about boys? Does she know any boys? Well, she knows Henry Fussy, said Mrs. Arable brightly. Dorian closed his eyes again and went into a deep thought. Henry Fussy, he mumbled. Remarkable. Well, I don't think you have anything to worry about. Let Fern associate with her friends in the barn if she wants to. I would say, offhand, that spiders and pigs were fully as interesting as Henry Fussy. Yet I predict that the day will come when even Henry will drop some chance remark that catches Fern's attention. It's amazing how children can change from year to year. Well, how's Avery? He asked, opening his eyes wide. That's her older brother. Oh, Avery. Oh, Avery is always fine. Of course, he gets into poison ivy, and he gets stung by wasps and bees, and bring frogs and snakes home and breaks everything he lays his hands on. He's fine. That's just what boys are supposed to do. Good, said the doctor. Mrs. Arable said goodbye and thanked Dr. Dorian very much for his advice. She felt greatly relieved. Chapter 15. The crickets sang in the grasses. The crickets. They sang the song of summer's ending, a sad, monotonous song. Summer is over and gone, they sang. Over and gone, over and gone. Summer is dying, dying. Oh, that's a cute song. The cricket felt it was their duty to warn everyone that summertime cannot last forever. Even on the most beautiful days of the whole year, the days when summer is changing into fall, the crickets spread the rumor of sadness and change. Everybody heard the song of the crickets. Avery and Fern Arable heard it as they walked the dusty road. They knew that school would soon begin again. The young geese heard it and knew that they would never be little goslings again. Charlotte heard it and knew that she didn't have much time left. Mrs. Zuckerman at work in the kitchen heard the crickets, and a sadness came over her, too. Another summer gone, she sighed. Lurvy, at work building that crate for Wilbur, Vanessa, you have a question here, heard the song and knew it was time to dig potatoes, yummy potatoes. Summer is over and gone, repeated the crickets. How many nights till frost? Sang the crickets. Goodbye, summer. Goodbye, goodbye. She heard the crickets and they flew, and they felt so uneasy that they broke a hole in the pasture fence and wandered up into the field across the road. The gander discovered the hole and let his family through, and they walked to the orchard and ate the apples that were lying on the ground. Those are probably okay, right? Because they're on the ground, so they weren't going to sell them. A little maple tree in the swamp heard the cricket song and turned bright red with anxiety. Wilbur was now the center of attraction on the farm. Good food and regular hours were showing results. Wilbur was a pig any man would be proud of. One day more than 100 people came to stand at his yard and admire him. Wow. Charlotte had written the word radiant, and Wilbur really looked radiant as he stood in the golden sunlight. Ever since the spider had befriended him, he had done his best to live up to his reputation. When Charlotte's Web said some pig, Wilbur had tried hard to look like some pig. When Charlotte's Web said terrific, Wilbur had tried to look terrific. And now that the web said radiant, he did everything possible to make himself glow. It's not easy to look radiant, but Wilbur threw himself into it with a will. He would turn his head slightly and blink his long eyelashes. Then he would breathe deeply. And when his audience grew bored, he would spring into the air and do a backflip with a half twist. At this, the crowd would cheer. How's that for a pig, Mr. Zuckerman would ask. Well pleased with himself, that pig is radiant. Some of Wilbur's friends in the barn worried for fear all this attention would go to his head and make him stuck up. But he never did. Wilbur was modest. Fame did not spoil him. He still worried some about the future, as he could hardly believe that a mere spider were going to come and would be able to save his life. Sometimes at night he would have a bad dream. But that was only a dream. In the daytime, Wilbur usually felt happy and confident. Let's see. No pig ever had truer friends. Oh, and he realized that friendship is one of the most satisfying things in the world. Even the song and the crickets did not make Wilbur too sad. He knew it was almost time for the county fair, and he was looking forward to the trip. If he could distinguish himself at the fair, then maybe win some prize money, he was sure that Zuckerman would let him be. Charlotte had worries of her own, but she kept quiet about them. One morning, Wilbur asked her about the fair. You're going to go with me, aren't you, Charlotte? He said. Well, I don't know, replied Charlotte. Oh my goodness. I can't get the pages apart. Let's see. Oh, the fair comes at a bad time for me. I shall find it in home even for. Why? Asked Wilbur. Oh, I just my web. Too much going on around here. Oh, please come with me, Wilbur said. Charlotte, I can't stand going to the fair without you. You've just got to come. No, I believe I'd better stay home and see if I can get some work done. What kind of work? Asked Wilbur. Egg laying. It's time I made an egg sack and filled it with eggs. Oh, I didn't know you could lay eggs, said Wilbur. He was amazed. Oh, sure, said the spider. I'm versatile. What does versatile mean? Full of eggs? When he says you're versatile, it does not mean you're full of eggs. Certainly not, said Charlotte. Versatile means I can turn with ease from one thing to another. It means I don't have to limit my activities to spinning and trapping and stunts like that. Why don't you come with me to the fairgrounds and lay your eggs there? Said Wilbur. It would be wonderful fun. Charlotte gave her web a twitch and moodily watched it sway. I'm afraid not, she said. You like what?
Wait, Sarah have a ear.
An ear?
No, Sarah have a.
Oh, I saw she's on the top of her hood. She had some ears. Sarah did. That was cute. So Charlotte said, I'm afraid not. You don't know the first thing about egg laying, Wilbur. I can't arrange my family duties to suit the management of the county fair. When I get ready to lay eggs, I have to lay eggs, fair or no fair. However, I don't want you to worry about it. You might lose weight. We'll leave it this way. I'll come to the fair if I possibly can. Oh, good, said Wilbur. I knew you wouldn't forsake me just when I need you most. All that day, Wilbur stayed inside, taking life easy in the straw. Charlotte rested and ate a grasshopper. She knew that she couldn't help Wilbur much longer. In a few days, she would have to drop everything and build the beautiful little sack that would hold her eggs. So did we want to change activities now? Okay, lucky for you guys. You can see chapter 16, Off to the Fair, and there's a big picture here, a big pig in the picture, like they've got a giant pig at the fair.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it's like a balloon or something, and it says first prize on it. The night before the county fair, everybody went to bed early. Fern and Avery were in bed by 8. That's early. Avery lay dreaming that the Ferris wheel had stopped and that she was in the top car. That would be my nightmare. Fern lay dreaming that she was getting sick in the swings.
Hey, guys.
Lurvy was in bed by 8:30. Wow, that's early for a guy. He lay dreaming that he was throwing baseballs at a cloth cat and winning a genuine Navajo blanket. Mr. and Mrs. Zuckerman were in bed by 9. Mrs. Zuckerman lay dreaming about a deep freeze unit. And Mr. Zuckerman lay dreaming about Wilbur. He dreamt that Wilbur had grown until he was 116 feet long and 92 feet high, and they had won all the prizes at the fair and was covered with blue ribbons and even a blue ribbon tied to the end of his tail. Oh, so see, this was his dream, Wilbur. He's got Wilbur, and he's got the little blue ribbons on him, and he's really big. That was what he was dreaming, that was Wilbur. But that's not true. Down in the barn cellar, the animals, too, went to sleep early, all except Charlotte. Tomorrow would be fair day. Every creature planned to get up early to see Wilbur off on his great adventure. Oh, that's nice. When morning came, everybody got up at daylight. The day was hot. Up the road was the Arable's house. Up the road at the Arable's house, Fern lugged a pail of hot water to her room and took a sponge bath. Then she put on her prettiest dress because she knew she would see boys at the fair. Ooh. Mrs. Arable scrubbed the back of Avery's neck and wet his hair and parted it and brushed it down hard till it stuck to the top of his head. So all but about 6 hairs that stood straight up. Avery put on clean underwear, clean blue jeans, and a clean shirt. Mr. Arable dressed, ate breakfast, and then went down and polished his truck. He had offered to drive everybody to the fair, including Wilbur. Bright and early, Lurvy put clean straw in Wilbur's crate and lifted it into the pig pen. The crate was green. In gold letters it said, Zuckerman's Famous Pig. Charlotte had her web looking fine for the occasion. Wilbur ate his breakfast slowly. He tried to look radiant, but without getting food stuck in his ears. In the kitchen, Mrs. Zuckerman suddenly made an announcement. Homer, she said to her husband, I am going to give that pig a buttermilk bath. A what? Said Mr. Zuckerman. See, that's what Frankie said. A buttermilk bath. My grandmother used to bathe her pig with buttermilk when it got dirty. I just remembered. Wilbur's not dirty, said Mr. Zuckerman. Well, he's filthy behind the ears, said Mrs. Zuckerman. Every time Lurvy slops him, the food runs down around the ears. Then it dries and forms a crust. He also has a smudge on one side where he lays in the manure. He lays in clean straw, corrected Mr. Zuckerman. Well, he's dirty and he's going to have a bath. Mr. Zuckerman sat down weakly and ate a donut. His wife went to the woodshed. When she returned, she wore rubber boots and an old raincoat, and she carried a bucket of buttermilk and a small wooden paddle. Edith is crazy, old Zuckerman, but she paid no attention to him. Together they walked to the pig pen. Mrs. Zuckerman wasted no time. She climbed in with Wilbur and went to work. Dipping her paddle in the buttermilk, she rubbed him all over. The geese gathered around to see the fun, and so did the sheep and lambs. Even Templeton poked his head out cautiously to watch Wilbur get a buttermilk bath. Here, she's giving him a buttermilk bath. From the paddle and spreading the stuff on him. I don't know. Well, it's clean buttermilk, I'm sure. Charlotte, see, if you look in the picture, here she is coming down on the side. So she's like, I got to see what's happening here. Wilbur stood still and closed his eyes. He could feel the buttermilk trickling down his sides. He opened his mouth, and some of the buttermilk ran in. It was delicious. He felt radiant and happy. When Mrs. Zuckerman got through and rubbed him dry, he was the cleanest, prettiest pig you ever saw. He was pure white, pink around the ears and snout, and smooth as silk. The Zuckermans went up to change into their best clothes. Lurvy went to shave and put on his plaid shirt and his purple necktie. The animals were left to themselves in the barn. The 7 Goslings paraded around and around their mother. Please, 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 take us to the fair, begged a Gosling. Then all 7 teased to go. Please, 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 please. They made quite a racket. Children, snapped the goose. We're staying quietly at home. Only Wilbur Ilber is going to the fair. Just then Charlotte interrupted. I shall go too, she said softly. I have decided to go with Wilbur. He may need me. We can't tell what may happen at the fairgrounds. Somebody's got to go along who knows how to write. And I think Templeton better come too. I might need somebody to run errands and do general work. I'm staying right here, grumbled the rat. I haven't the slightest interest in fairs. Well, that's because you've never been to one, remarked an old sheep. A fair is a rat's paradise. Everybody spills food at the fair. A rat can creep around late at night and have a feast. In the horse barn, you will find oats that the trotters and pacers have spilled. In the trampled grass of the infield, you will find an old discarded lunch boxes containing the foul remains of peanut butter sandwiches, which you know to that a rat that's good, hard-boiled eggs, cracker crumbs, bits of donuts, and particles of cheese. In the hard-packed dirt of the midway, after the glaring lights are out and the people have gone to bed, you will find a veritable treasure trove of popcorn fragments, frozen custard dribblings, candied apples appended by tired children, sugar fluff crystals, salted almonds, popsicles, partially gnawed ice cream cones, and the wooden sticks of lollipops. Everywhere is loot for a rat, in tents, in booths, in haylofts. Why, as a fair has enough disgusting leftover food to satisfy a whole army of rats. Templeton's eyes were blazing. Is this true? He asked. Is this appetizing yarn of yours true? I like high living, and what you say tempts me. It is true, said the old sheep. Go to the fair, Templeton. You will find that the conditions at a fair will surpass your wildest dreams. Buckets with sour mash sticking to them, tin cans containing particles of tuna fish, greasy paper bags stuffed with run. Okay, that's enough, cried Templeton. Don't tell me anymore. I'm going. Good, said Charlotte, winking at the old sheep. Now then, there's no time to be lost. Wilbur will soon be put into the crate. Templeton and I must get in the crate right now and hide ourselves. The rat didn't waste a minute. He scampered over to the crate and crawled between the slats, and he pulled straw up over him so he would be hidden from sight. All right, said Charlotte, I'm next. She sailed into the air, let out a drag line, and dropped gently to the ground. Then she climbed the side of the crate and hid herself inside the knot hole at the top of the crate. And there she was, ready to go. The old sheep nodded. What a cargo, she said. That sign up to say Zuckerman's famous pig and 2 stowaways. Look out. The people are coming, umming, said the gander. Cheese it, cheese it, cheese it. The big truck with Mr. Arable at the wheel backed slowly down toward the barnyard. Lurvy and Mr. Zuckerman walked alongside. Fern and Avery were standing by the body of the truck, hanging onto the sideboards. Listen to me, whispered the old sheep to Wilbur. When they open the crate and try to put you in, struggle. Do not go without a hassle. Pigs always resist when they're being loaded. And if I struggle, I'll get dirty, said Wilbur. Well, never mind that. Do as I say, struggle. If you were to walk into the crate without resisting, Zuckerman might think you were bewitched. He'd be scared to go to the fair. Templeton poked his head up through the straw. Struggle if you must, he said, but kindly remember that I'm hiding down here in this crate, and I don't want to be stepped on, or kicked in the face, or pummeled, or crushed in any way, or squashed, or buffeted about, or bruised, or lacerated, or scarred, or biffed. Just watch what you're doing, Mr. Radiant, when they go shoving you in here. Be quiet, Templeton, said the sheep. Pull your head in. They're coming. Look radiant, Wilbur. Wilbur, lay low. Charlotte, talk it up, geese. The truck backed slowly to the pig pen and stopped. Mr. Arable cut the motor, got out, and walked around to the rear and lowered the tailgate. The geese cheered. Mrs. Arable got out of the truck. Fern and Avery jumped to the ground, and Mrs. Zuckerman came walking down from the house. Everybody lined up at the fence and stood for a moment admiring Wilbur and the beautiful green crate. Nobody realized that the crate already contained a rat and a spider. That is some pig, said Mrs. Arable. He's terrific, said Lurvy. He's very radiant, said Fur, remembering the day he was born. Well, said Mr. Zuckerman, he's clean anyway. The buttermilk did certainly help. I could stop anytime you like. Oh, no, I didn't say this chapter's a little longer.
We're fine. We're waiting patiently.
Oh, you're so nice to me. Thank you. Well, he's cleaned anyway. The buttermilk certainly helped. Mr. Arable studied Wilbur carefully. That's Fern's dad. Yes, he's a wonderful pig, he said. It's hard to believe that he was the runt of the litter. You'll get some extra good ham and bacon. What? Homer, when it comes time to get rid of that pig. Wilbur heard those words and his heart almost stopped. I think I'm going to faint, he whispered to the old sheep who was watching. Kneel down, whispered the old sheep. Let the blood rush to your head. Wilbur sank to his knees, all radiance gone. His eyes closed. Look, screamed Fern, he's fading away. Hey, watch me, yelled Avery, crawling on all fours in the crate. The boys in there. I'm a pig. Avery's foot touched Templeton under the straw. What a mess, thought the rat. What fantastic creatures boys are. Why did I let myself in for this? The geese saw Avery in the crate and cheered. Avery, you get out of that crate this instant, commanded his mother. What do you think you are? Well, I'm a pig, said Avery, tossing handfuls of straw in the air. Oink, oink, oink. The truck is rolling away, Papa, said Fern. The truck, with no one in the wheel, had started to roll downhill. Mr. Arable dashed to the driver's seat and pulled out the emergency brake. I've had that happen with my car, by the way. It's kind of embarrassing. The truck stopped. The geese cheered. Charlotte crouched and made herself as small as possible in the knothole so Avery wouldn't see her. Come out at once, cried Mrs. Arable. Avery crawled out of the crate on hands and knees, making faces at Wilbur. Wilbur fainted away. The pig has passed out, said Mrs. Zuckerman. Throw water on him. Throw buttermilk, suggested Avery. The geese cheered. Lurvy ran for a pail of water. Fern climbed into the pen and knelt by Wilbur's side. It's sunstroke, said Zuckerman. The heat is too much for him. Maybe he's dead, said Avery. Oh, come out of that pig pen immediately, cried Mrs. Arable. Avery, he's a boy. Avery obeyed his mother and climbed into the back of the truck so he could see better. Avery returned with cold water and dashed it on Wilbur. Throw some on me, cried Avery. I'm hot too. Oh, keep quiet, hollered Vern. Keep quiet. Her eyes were brilliant tears as she's upset about Wilbur. Wilbur, feeling the cold water. Oh, he came to. Hello. He rose slowly to his feet while the geese cheered. Oh, no, here he is getting the water thrown on him, huh? It's silly. He got the water thrown on him. See, he's not like giant, like in the guy's dream. He's up, said Mrs. Arable. I guess there's nothing wrong with him. Well, I'm hungry, said Avery. I want a candied apple. Yeah, right. Wilbur's all right now, said Fern. We can start. I want to take a ride in the Ferris wheel. Mr. Zuckerman and Mr. Arable and Lurvy grabbed the pig and pushed him head first toward the crate. Wilbur began to struggle. The harder the men pushed, the harder he held back. Avery jumped down and joined the men. Wilbur kicked and thrashed and grunted. Nothing wrong with this pig, said Mr. Zuckerman cheerfully, pressing his knee against Wilbur's behind. All together now, boys. Shove! With a final heave, they jammed him into the crate. The geese cheered. Lurvy nailed some boards across the end so Wilbur couldn't back out. Then, using all their strength, because the pig's pretty heavy, the men picked up the crate and heaved it aboard the truck. They did not know that under the straw was a rat, and inside a knothole was a big gray spider. They only saw a pig. Everybody in, called Mr. Arable. He started the motor. The ladies climbed in beside him. Mr. Zuckerman and Lurvy and Fern and Avery rode in the back, hanging on to the sideboards. They used to be able to do that kind of stuff. Now, too dangerous. The truck began to move ahead. The geese cheered. The children answered their cheer, and away everybody went to the fair. Yay! So we saved the fair till next time?
Oh, yeah.
Yay!
Awesome!
Oh, this sounds exciting. If nothing else, it sounds like there's a bunch of food.
Thank you, Miss Grace.
A bunch of rotten food at the fair. Yay, right?
Awesome.
Thank you, guys. don't know what's going to happen at the fair, huh?
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you guys for paying attention today.
Awesome.
Well, you guys are going to do something else now, right?
Yes.
Oh, well, then I'm out of here. Thank you guys.
Grace, we appreciate you. Thank you so much, as always.
I can still
We have something fun. We have today. Whose birthday is it today?
Mickey
Mickey
Mouse.
Mouse. So we're going to have a couple of our friends here come up and show you their Mickey Mouse gear and tell you what they like about Disney or whatever they want to do right now. And then we have something fun right after, okay? Your turn, hon. Tell them your name and show them your shirt.
What's your favorite ride at Disney?
What's your favorite ride at Disney?
My favorite ride is the Splash Mountain and Thunder Mountain.
What's your name?
Gloria.
All right, Gloria.
Show them your sweater.
Show them your sweater. Hey, your turn. Tell them about your hair too.
Hi, I'm Tammy. This is my little collection
She
here.
brought fun Mickey
And my
stuff.
shirt. The ride I like is soaring over California because it's overlooking the water and different nature. Mickey Mouse!
I love Mickey Mouse.
Hi, my name is Sarah, and I'm wearing all Mickey Mouse today.
Yes.
My favorite ride is Splash Mountain and the Disney theme.
All right.
Good
Your
job.
I'm Vicky and I went to Disneyland. I got this necklace from my nephew Jeff, and he got it at Disneyland. I was
What's your favorite ride, sweetheart?
log wide.
Log ride, yay, me too.
Hi, my name is Lisa Stewart, and I like Disneyland, and I like the log ride, and I like the teacups.
Ah. Show them your shirt.
I have a Mickey Mouse t-shirt on.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Lisa. Okay, the girls are going to do something before we all say, as staff go in and say our happy birthday, Mickey Mouses. Go ahead, ladies. You three in the front, move up and keep your space. Gloria, you're up here. Can you see all of them? Yeah, there you go. Okay, ready? Go.
Happy birthday
to you.
Happy birthday
to
you. Happy birthday, dear Mickey.
Happy
birthday to you. You guys are amazing. Come on, everyone. What is that? This is
a little toy.
Mickey.
Thank you all. Awesome.
So Tammy has a little Mickey figurine and he's throwing a ball. I saw these, they had them out during the Mickey's 90th celebration. And what do you have here?
I have a medium size from Build-A-Bear.
And then there's Mickey Mouse plush. They're so cute. I love all of your shirts. This
Yes,
is like
we
perfect for the
appreciate you
holidays.
guys celebrating
So
Mickey
cute.
Mouse's birthday with us.
Yay.
Mickey!
I have all my stuff on too.
And
I've got
this is Disney herself.
Mickey's on my pants, Mickey on my shirt.
You.
I was gonna wear my ears, but I forgot them.
And can you tell them, do you remember we were talking this morning what Mickey Mouse's name was gonna be?
Well, his name
You guys know
originally was. Does anyone know?
Does
No.
anybody know?
No.
I forgot it right. We were doing
Was
it live.
Mortimer.
Mortimer.
Mortimer was his
Can you
original
imagine?
Never heard of it.
His
Yeah.
wife did not like that name.
And so they changed it to Mickey.
And they also were gonna call Disneyland
Yeah.
Mickey Mouse
Mickey
Village.
Mouse Village. Could you imagine this saying Mickey Mouse Village instead of Disneyland on your shirt?
Yeah.
That would be weird.
Then I
I've
wouldn't
seen
wear
a couple of
all this.
pictures when he was driving a little boat. That's
That's
like way
like-
back in
Oh,
the day.
yeah, Steamboat Willie. Yeah,
Yes.
the original.
93 years old.
There you go. Come on, B, come show yours.
Yeah.
Okay, one last
Come on,
time,
Vanessa.
ladies. I have my Mickey and my
Yeah,
love
so cute.
and Minnie. Vanessa has hers. And one last time, ladies. Happy birthday! Awesome. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, ladies, for being so awesome always.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, this is